As a TWU Local 577 flight attendant, this segment is specifically for you. We want to take a few minutes to talk to our members about what this acquisition means to us. Not in general terms, but specifically for Local 577 and nearly the 1,900 flight attendants that we represent. First, you should be really proud. When Allegiant and Sun Country combine, TWU Local 577 members will be the largest flight attendant group at the new airline by a significant amount. The contract that you are working under right now is the one our membership ratified by nearly 90% not too long ago. And this is a symbol of our strength, our unity that we have amongst ourselves as a work group. Here I have TWU Counsel Mark Richards, and he's going to help touch on a few questions that I know many of our members have. Thank you for joining us, Mark.
Thank you, Klarissa.
So what does this mean for our members right now in the middle of this acquisition, and what should a TWU 577 flight attendant be doing right at this moment?
So I think it's important to understand that this is a process that's not going to be months, but it's going to be years. And there's really two parts to it. There's the business end of it and our end, the employee, the flight attendant end, the labor union end. So the business end is moving rapidly. The government has looked at whether this was going to hurt competition, and they gave them approval at the Department of Justice, meaning the two airlines. And then the FAA, really the Department of Transportation, has come in and looked at whether this would hurt the airline services in this country, and they've checked that box. So what they're down to now, the next step is the owners of two airlines. Are they going to agree to become one airline that will eventually be Allegiant? Sun Country's footprint will be gone. And that is happening like tomorrow almost. May 13th, I believe, is the date. And we fully expect, Wall Street fully expects the shareholders, after the board of directors have approved this, to say, yep, these two companies are going to be one, with Allegiant acquiring, in essence, purchasing Sun Country. Then a whole nother set of rules and regulations go into effect. So on the operational side, there's got to be a safety check. So the FAA, with part of the Department of Transportation, is coming in and they're going to say, should we give them a single operating certificate? But they're not going to be able to do that until the company decides when they want to try to be one airline. It's going to take a year. It could be many years, multiple. I doubt it could be months. They've got to look at a bunch of things, from manuals to computer systems. Do they have the right parts? Are their mechanics going to be cross-trained? The pilots, flight attendants, all of the regulatory safety things. But at some point, they are going to come out and probably say, you can have a single operating certificate to be one airline, Klarissa, if they want to be. And that's their stated business goal. Okay, two airlines operating separately now become one airline. What about us? And it's a critical thing that we have a union. This next step would not happen if we didn't have a union. And because we have a strong union and a strong contract, the National Mediation Board is the part of the government that oversees union relations at airlines and railroads, but at airlines. And they're going to come in and they're first going to ask the same question. Are you a single carrier? Is this truly two airlines operating separately? They don't really care who the owners are, but are you now one airline? It's a long way away. But when that happens, it triggers two main things. The first thing it triggers is, I've got a contract over here with one flight attendant group, and then we have our contract that I'm proud to say I was part of negotiating. Your last contract got ratified by over 90% of the flight attendants. And that was done through the hard work and unity of the members. So how do you take two collective bargaining agreements, we call them collective bargaining agreements, CBAs, and put them into one called a joint CBA, a new, better be better and stronger contract as we go forward. And remember, there's different ways of approaching scheduling, vacation, bidding in both contracts. And so we sit down and we negotiate a JCBA. A second part of the union world is which union is going to be the surviving union. It's an important issue. And the national mediation decides whether to call for an election or not call for an election. And there's no magic formula, but it's almost entirely based on the numbers. Who has more flight attendants? Again, no magic formula, it's a sense. And everyone knows that at Allegiant, we're around 1,900 flight attendants and growing strong, and our colleagues are about 800 flight attendants. So those numbers, I've seen those numbers where there will be no election, could be no election, and the government says their surviving union is going to be TWU, and we fully expect that. They could call for an election where all of the flight attendants at both organizations vote, and we know that we walk in, hopefully, and our members are unified, and they're proud, and you all have come a long way getting to the contract that you have and the resolve that you have. And then we fully expect to be voted in, if there were a vote called by the government, to be the surviving union. So then the surviving union, the Transport Workers Union, Local 577, stays intact. We stay fighting for our flight attendants. Then we now have to put the contract together, and we now know which union, the TWU, is the union representing all of the flight attendants.
So Mark, I know this is on a lot of our flight attendants' minds. When these two flight attendant work groups come together, how will seniority be handled? I mean, as a flight attendant, and I know you've worked with us a ton, so you understand seniority is king. It's huge. It's everything. Everything is built around seniority. So how would that work?
You may be at the top of the scale at Sun Country, but that, relatively speaking, may put you in a different place on the scale at Allegiant. So there's laws that govern this. And the law says it must be done, Klarissa, in a fair and equitable manner. Sounds lofty, but we have a lot of experience here. And you have to make sure that you bring the two lists together in a fair way. There's laws on it. So, for example, the law doesn't allow you to staple. Some people say, well, just put everybody at the bottom. And because we're the bigger, union of flight attendants, we have the stronger contract. Someone may say, well, put our colleagues at the bottom. Well, they're our colleagues. They're flight attendants. We care for each other. We respect each other. So stapling is not allowed under the law. But integrating the two lists in a fair and equitable way, and we're going to be fighting for the most fair and equitable way for TWU flight attendants. We are TWU, look at your shirt. Yep. Then eventually it becomes one seniority list. Now, what happens if we can't agree on that seniority process, right? Then we have three routes. One is to reach agreement with the organizations, the unions, and the company. Two is to get a mediator in here and say, hey, professional mediators, what are the things separating you? Can we resolve them? And if none of that works, the last and final thing is arbitration. And a neutral arbitrator, sometimes three, but normally one, come in and they make the decision. They're the judge. It's called final and binding arbitration. We would rather work it out at the, collegially, but we're okay because we do the arbitrations too, and we intend to win that arbitration as well. And so seniority integration, getting a new contract, long way away from the government saying you're a single airline when the businesses have told us they're going to operate separately for a while. And that is the process of this world. We've been doing this for decades. The TWU is the largest airline union in America. We've been through the American U.S. Air acquisition. Now it's the largest airline in America, and the TWU is the largest union there. We've seen it with acquisition at Southwest flight attendants to AirTran flight attendants. I'm old enough to have been through all of these from the 80s, and we're totally ready. We're working on it. We've been working on it for months already. Our economists, the lawyers, your local leaders, Klarissa, you with Krista, and your other board members have been working a lot. The most important thing with all these legal things, with all the economists, with all of the issues, is our unity. I kid you not that the most important thing of someone who's been through dozens of these is when we stay together, TWU proud, Allegiant proud, you get better results at the bargaining table. You get better results through the seniority process. You have a better, I don't know what I want to call it, entree into the National Mediation Board, better presence, respect. We go to Wall Street as well. We go everywhere, and they know we're very proud and we're very united, and they also know it's known across the country. We're the fighting union.
Absolutely. So what should an Allegiant flight attendant be doing today?
Well, there's a couple of things I think are very, very important. First, stay current with the local. Watch these videos, read the material, talk to your leaders, talk to each other, but it's very important to stay current. These things are going to move, and there's a lot of misinformation out there, and there's a lot of correct information coming from the union that has enormous experience here. Stay current. A second thing is know your contract. You know, the flight attendant contract was voted in by 90% plus. Mm-hmm. It's an excellent move forward. All of our contracts get better each time. And so know it, because eventually we'll be talking about a joint collective bargaining agreement, and we want this to be the floor to move up and get an even stronger contract, and we don't want management to think that they can use this opportunity to try to erode or weaken our contract. Not going to happen at the TWU. And the third, and in many ways the most important, is to be an active union member. And what does that mean? It could be as simple as wearing your union pin. Very important message to management. While they're going through a multi-billion, $1.5 billion deal, they're looking for ways to move things. And one of the ones they're going to absolutely look at is what can we do with our unions? Well, we're sending that message. Our leadership has sent the message. Our contract is always going to get stronger. And so by wearing the pin, by taking the next action, by keeping up, reading, you are actually strengthening the unity we have, which is fantastic. But it also puts your lawyers, your economists, and most importantly, your union leaders in a stronger position as we deal with seniority and the contract and moving forward. So stay unified, be proud, and be loud of America's fighting union, TWU.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
I think that was great. So to every TWU Local 577 member, this is our moment, not to be anxious, but to be ready. You have helped build what our local has today, and we should all be proud of that and know that your local is going to protect it.